Well, welcome back to Two Pastors and a Mic. My name is Channock.
And I'm Corey.
And we're so thankful that you're joining us wherever you're listening from or watching from. We appreciate you. As always, would you like, share, or subscribe if you're on YouTube? Also, as we mentioned last week, you're pretending to take a drink out of our new mug. Shout out to Jacob again. These are awesome. Love it.
We did not have this available for you on their merch, but
well, we don't have it yet available. But we did ask last week if you would be interested in any Two Pastors and a Mic merch. Maybe that is coming.
And we don't know the response yet because we recorded this before we released last week because you're in beautiful Tampa.
Yeah, our normal podcast day. I am in Tampa. So we're pre-recording this now 2 days after the Super Bowl. And speaking of that, now when this gets released and you're listening to this, the conversation probably has already ended with this, and everybody has probably moved on. But just because it's 2 days in our mind when we're recording this podcast, we wanted to bring up the controversy a little bit just for a second to talk about.
And they might not even be aware of this controversy.
Yeah, the commercial that was shared during the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, it was a set of commercials throughout the Super Bowl, and it was about how Jesus gets us.
Yep.
And there was so much controversy around this, and I'm always blown away, and I shouldn't be, at the divisiveness between believers and followers of Jesus. Like, there's so many different camps. So many people are planted in their ideology that anything will trigger them and set them off. So we had people from a vast array of the spectrum on where people landed on this. Some people absolutely hated it, and then there's a few different camps of reasons why people hated it, and then you had some people that absolutely loved it and the message. And so we just thought, before we get into the podcast and finish up the series around Mindfields, that we would just talk about this just for a minute, because I think it does bring up some interesting talking points, and I think it leads to some teaching moments for us as followers of Jesus to kind of dive into why we think the way we do, or why we get triggered, or why we get upset when other people feel called to do something and do it, and we have to critique it to a level that's sometimes downright hateful. And that's what I don't get. But let's talk about it.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about the fact that, so you brought up today, and I know there was a couple different things and posts that I saw on Facebook, but there are different levels of, I guess I'll say, disdain for this commercial from people that would call themselves Christian and but are opposed to the message that the commercial was sending, that Jesus gets us. And I know there was one thing from you actually this morning. Let's start there, because you said a guy that kind of,
a famous worship leader.
Yeah.
He's like, from a theological standpoint, it's like it's not that God gets us, it's that we get him. And that wing bothers me a lot personally, but I understand why they're there in that perspective. And so they are critiquing the actual
theology
message of the commercial,
right.
Which, by the way, we'll just first start off as the commercial itself, regardless of the funding, regardless of the messages you're taking away, the commercial was amazing, and It's true. I don't think anybody, these people disagree with that message.
Right.
Screw that. Then there's the people that loved it, obviously, for obvious reasons. Then you have your criticism, and I think this criticism, in my opinion, is fair, from many people that have deconstructed faith, or even the people that have walked away from faith, that are critical of two things. One, the finances spent, because apparently if there's two commercials and it's average $7 million, $14 million was spent, and their criticism is, we could feed the poor, which I understand that criticism. My only critique to those people are you feeding the poor?
Right.
For you to be critical of this.
Someone else and what they're doing.
And someone else and what
with
they're
their
doing.
finances.
Because the message of Jesus does need to be taught and preached, and finances are involved in the kingdom of God expanding.
Yeah.
If you look at the life of Jesus, people are like, was Jesus poor or rich? Man, that we'll do a whole episode on the people that were actually funding his message, I actually learned that from you, and the women involved and the power that they had and who they were married to and why they had so much wealth and how Jesus's messages actually flourished financially. Very interesting to think about.
Yeah.
But the second camp in that, I think, is totally fair and right. And they're saying, yes, we loved the message, we agreed with the message, but we have such a problem with the American church who is not only funding that message, but actually disagrees with that message. For example,
Right.
the biggest funder of that message was Hobby Lobby. And the criticism is, okay, Hobby Lobby funded an incredible message to wash feet of people that disagree or look different than you. But they don't accept homosexuality, and they don't accept all these other people. And so the criticism, I think, is fair from people of like, oh, yeah, it's amazing. Jesus loves everybody. But most church stances are, no, homosexuals aren't welcome, or no, refugees aren't welcome, or hey, all these things that we have. And so it's like, okay, is Jesus inclusive? Because you're saying you love this message, but your lifestyle doesn't add up to it. And so there's hypocrisy in, okay, he gets us. But do you? Are you living like Jesus? Because most of the people that say they live like Jesus actually don't live like Jesus.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that is one of the camps. And I would say it's one of those things, I think you mentioned it, and I've heard Jamie mention it as well. He talks about how, one of the reasons why Jesus was crucified was not who he excluded, but who he included, which was everyone. And that's the message today. And they're trying to get the message, Jesus gets us, Jesus washes feet. But like you said, like the very people that are funding this message, are they themselves washing people's feet and being inclusive? And I get that criticism, but it's just, to me, so have these people that, okay, $7 million was spent, or $14 million, or whatever the total really was, have they looked in to see what this organization has done to house the homeless? Have they looked up what this ministry has done to feed the poor and those that are hungry around the world? But also at the end of the day, even if they didn't spend any dime, if they really felt that this was what they were called to do to get the message of Jesus out to the world, why are we so critical of that? And here's the teaching moment with all of this, and this is what I wanted to get to. This is the reason why I wanted to bring it up, because you have all these camps, love it, hate it, criticizing it, from all different spectrums, and it's so crazy. But I'm reminded of Peter when he meets with Jesus after Jesus was resurrected. Jesus restores Peter. He then goes on to tell Peter in the ways in which he was going to die, which was to be crucified. Peter, sitting in this moment and hearing how he was going to suffer for the kingdom and suffer for following Jesus, he looks over and he sees the other disciple, John, the one that Jesus loved. So says John himself. And he looks at John and he asks Jesus, what about him? And what's interesting is Jesus's reply, and I think it's fitting in this setting. Jesus says, what's that to you? You follow me. And I think if we would have that mindset as followers of Jesus, what is he calling us to do? And guess what? If the people that funded that commercial felt led and felt called that that's what Jesus called them to do, what's that to you? If you feel led to be very inclusive and opening your doors and being loving to all, and you're looking around, why ain't these other Christians like this? Why isn't everybody like I am? Jesus would say, what's that to you? You follow me. Keep doing what I've called you to do. And if people would be in that mindset to worry about just what Jesus called them to do, I think a lot of barriers would fall down. Whether or not people are operating out of love or hate, I think those divisive walls of hate would begin to fall down if people would just continue to follow what they feel like Jesus has called them to do. And because here's the thing, all these posts, all these podcasts that are out, whether it's wrong or right, people right now are taking sides with this. And I'm not saying I'm taking a side with any of it. Do you think you're going to change somebody's mind by putting out a post on Facebook, by talking about it on a podcast, how everybody else is wrong and this is the right way to look at it, and they spent $7 million and they shouldn't have done that, and everybody needs to agree with my way of thinking about this particular thing? No. What have I called you to do? What's that to you? You follow me. And so I think that is fitting for today as followers of Jesus, that Jesus would be talking to us today. He would say, quit looking at everybody else, quit comparing everybody else to yourself and what you're doing. What's that to you? You follow me. And I think if we would live that way, that's all we can worry about, really, at the end of the day. Are we doing what we feel like Jesus has called us to do? and I'm going to keep doing it. Even if people are doing things that I think are wrong, what's that to me? I'm going to keep doing what God called me to do.
But you don't fully
And
agree
rant.
with that.
I do.
Well, what if somebody was, you would step in if there was abuse happening.
I mean, yeah, but you, okay, so you're saying if someone's going to be abusive and say, oh, God called me to be abusive?
No, but it's our job to stand up against abuse, because I agree with you. What's that to you? I love that message. I agree with that message. But some of the criticism towards that specific message is many people hide under the facade of this is what God's calling to me to do. And they have terrible theology and terrible eschatology. And then they promote fear and hell on people. And then they abuse people literally in how they lead their specific churches.
Yeah. I guess, okay, here's what I'm saying with it. If it takes time and energy for us to post about it, to talk about it, and not actually out there making a difference because of it, it's taking away from what he's called us to do. So focus on that.
I agree with you.
If there is an abusive message, or, man, it's totally wrong, and I think that it is wrong, and someone says it, and, you know, that God called him to do it, which we need to have a podcast episode on this too, when people say, you know, well, God's telling me, or God said.
I think we did that cow tipping series.
Oh, we did? Because
Yeah.
once someone says God said, you can't even talk to them.
Yeah.
They have it made up in their mind. And yeah, we talked about how do we really believe God actually said that to them or not? But that's their own opinion. But my point is, okay, not that we don't step in with different things, not that people have bad theology, wrong theology, but who's to say we don't have some wrong theology in what we believe?
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so if it's causing us to take time away from doing what he's called us to do,
which is to love people.
then we've missed the point.
Yeah. But that's the thing. What God's called us to do is to love people.
Yeah.
And the criticism on the other side is, okay, you're saying God loves people, which we agree with the message, but you're not loving all people.
Yep.
But I get it. It's a hard tension, I think, that many of us
Yeah.
are to live in is, are you inclusive? And
Yeah.
that's what you're getting at.
And no, it is what I'm getting at. I'm not saying not to step in. And yeah, the only command we're under in the new covenant, we talk about it all the time, is to love. So if Jesus is saying, what's that to you? You follow me. Do what I've called you to do. What does he call us to do? Love.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Now, people have different skewed versions of what it means to love. And people are all over the spectrum. And I get it. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's difficult. But at the end of the day, I just have to continue to love people the best way that I can and follow him and what he's called me to do. And I can't worry about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I would drive myself crazy.
You would.
And I would put up walls. I would fight against things, and it would still take away from what I feel like God would have called us to do in love.
It's a good message.
And rant.
What is God?
I don't know why it just triggered me so much.
I like it. Maybe we should talk about that.
I just hate it so much because so many different spectrums, and man, just maybe I'm bothered so much because of like the hate I feel towards, or the hate that I feel that people have towards other people, and it seems like it's the American evangelical sect.
It is.
That are the most hateful.
As Paul Young would say,
and
our
divisive.
people.
And those are my people.
Those are our people. Yo, those listening, we got to change. We need to be more loving. It is true. And speaking of that, let's close this whole thought process. Honestly, I don't know if we're titling it this or not, but it is the greatest sermon that you preached in 2023. Hands down, the greatest sermon you preached.
I appreciate that. I don't think we're going to call it that.
Well, we might.
It could be the greatest sermon that was preached at Hill City in 2023.
I don't know about that. I preached some banger ones. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, we did have William Paul Young in too, but you know,
no. If you're interested,
hey, I can look highly on myself and what I delivered.
You should look highly of yourself,
Yeah.
because you actually said that at the beginning of the sermon. If you're interested in the sermon, I do encourage you to go listen to it. It's Navigating Mindfields, Week 7 with Channock. And you highlighted, you opened up, you didn't even use notes. That's what I was so impressed with, is it was so vulnerable and authentic. I think that's why a lot of people connected with it. I listened back to it a couple days ago, and more people clapped in the middle of the sermon throughout your sermon than I think in the history of our church. There was a lot of clapping. I mean, a lot of exciting things to talk about, but you recapped all 6 weeks, got vulnerable about even some of your own insecurities, which I don't know if
that's why we're doing the podcast now on Mindfields, because it was so impactful for me.
Yeah.
Because I have lived with imposter syndrome my whole life. Like I wasn't enough, or if people really knew the real me behind all the stuff that I do, they wouldn't like this place anymore. They wouldn't listen to my teaching anymore. They wouldn't be a part of Hill City anymore. So I've had to overcome a lot of that, and still in the process of fully removing that, imposter from my life. But this minefield, it's so important because that is where the victories are won. It's in our thinking, and specifically what we talked about last week, what we think about God and his love towards us, and then how we can love ourselves. Because until we can get to that place where we see God's love for us and be able to love ourselves, we're not going to be able to make a difference and love others. And so for me, it was just so impactful. So I just kind of walked through the series, and really we've kind of unpacked all 6 of those other messages here over the last 6 weeks as well. But I wanted to encourage you to go listen to this message. But at the end of the day, kind of what I talked about was the insecurity, even in leading this place. So as lead pastor last year, I think I preached 10 times.
Including a panel, so 9.
Well, and then I led a couple serve days, and I led some other stuff.
That's not preaching.
On Sundays, and then we take a few Sundays off and all that stuff.
That's not
but
preaching.
It's not necessarily preaching. But he's laughing at me right now, and if you're watching YouTube, he's like bent over laughing because of this. Like he's even said, like I can't really wrap my head around like lead pastor only preaching like 10 times. And I know, but it's only 9.
Yeah. I know. I'm messing with you because I know the truth behind this.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But so I was feeling like, and when you first said, like, when you brought that up to me, like, by the way, you've only preached 10 times this year, I'm like, oh shoot, should I be doing more? Why did he say it like that? And then I was like,
yeah, you read into it.
You know what? No, like I've gotten to a place in my life now, being a part of this place since I was born, being on staff since 2005, lead pastor since 2012. And I've been working my whole life to get to the place I'm at now, where I truly am empowering other people. I'm empowering a team. I'm empowering a preaching team. I'm empowering the staff and the people we have here to actually do the work of ministry. We've been empowering people and volunteers and the saints, right? It's what our job is as a pastor, right? Ephesians talks about that. It's to equip the saints to do the work of ministry. And if I'm the only one doing the work of ministry, I'm not a pastor, because pastors equip others to do the work. So really, I should be doing even less and less and less and less until everyone is equipped and just living it every day, and everyone else has all the responsibilities of ministry. And then I'm just empowering and imparting and loving and coming alongside and guiding, right? As a pastor, that shepherd of people. And I got to the point where I changed my mindset, and it was in an instant. It's kind of from this series, but it was like, okay, crap, I've only preached 10 times, and a lot of insecurity came in, and maybe I'm not a lead pastor. Maybe I should just walk away. Maybe I should just be a part of this reinitiative and turn the church over to Corey to lead and all this stuff. And I'm like, wait, no.
Yeah,
I'm to a place now. I'm actually not the teaching pastor. I promoted Corey to that position. So I'm thinking 10 times is too many times to preach as a lead pastor. And I've developed this place. I'm doing things that my dad dreamed of, that he could be a part of and do. And he's told me this and talked to me about this. So finally I'm like, no, 10 times, I got to maybe even do less. And, doing less would even mean that I'm even more amazing than I think I am.
Dude, I'm here for it. I actually shared that on the interview. I was interviewed for Rethinking God with Tacos podcast. And I told the guy, he's one of the guys is a pastor. And I told him that our lead pastor preached 10 times. He's like, whoa, pause. He paused the episode. He goes, that's my dream. So it's true. And one of my favorite leadership quotes is from ancient Chinese philosopher Laozi. I don't know if I said his name right, but he says, a leader is best when people barely know he exists. And when his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves.
Yep.
And I think that that's just a testimony of your leadership. You are amazing. And I'm glad you said that. You actually said it on stage. You said, I'm amazing. And people clapped. And I came up after your sermon to reiterate that, because at least from my lived experiences within church culture is like, you couldn't say that about yourself. And I wonder how many people were like, wow, I can't believe the lead pastor said that he is amazing. Like, that's so prideful. Wrong. It is the most humble thing for you to claim your incredible aspects, how amazing and wonderful you are, because that's what the Father says about you. And so if you can't claim I'm amazing, then you have misunderstood how God the Father looks at you and views you. because he views you as amazing. So our job is to realign through all the crap that we go through in our life, realign with how God views us and say that. It's not prideful, it's humble, because you're actually resting on his finished work, not your ability to do great things or to be this great leader, or, hey, look at what all I've accomplished, or as the lead pastor, I've preached 52 times because everybody needs to hear from me, and I'm the only person that's can talk in this house and build this church on a personality because I'm insecure. Oh, wait, when you actually think about it, it does the opposite.
Yeah. No.
So
100%.
I get fired up about that because, my life goal is to help people believe they matter. And if you don't believe that you matter, you're actually not walking in what God has for you because you refuse to line up with how the Father speaks over you. And so maybe the best thing that you could say is look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, I'm proud of me, I love me, and I'm amazing.
Yep.
And watch your life transform. And it's not a prosperity message or, whatever people want to say. I don't know why I just mumbled like Jamie.
No, it's okay.
Big shout out to Jamie. But yeah, it fires me up because too many people walk in false humility, which is being insecure about who they are, and then they never really accomplish anything because they're just too scared to walk out in faith.
Yeah, I love that. And if you miss those three things that you can say over yourself every day, it's I'm proud of me, I love me, and I am amazing.
I just made that up on the spot.
No, I like it.
I come up, in my devotional, which if you haven't bought that and you're listening and you haven't bought my devotional, what are you doing? It's a 21-day guide to creating a personal motto and speaking that over yourself. And so my personal motto is a little bit different, but yeah, I do say stuff out loud to myself. And it was weird at first. It is weird, but I tell you, eventually you'll believe it.
Yeah.
And it'll change your life.
I'm just going to get vulnerable right now. So what I do, and this isn't quite every day, but it's almost every day. So I take my son to school, and I have for the last 13 years in a row. Like, I need to do the math, and I'm going to put a post out there at the last day of school. I've taken all my kids in the morning, dropped them off in the car rider line since Isaac was in kindergarten. He's a senior getting ready to graduate high school. So I've been doing this for 13 years in a row because my youngest son, Jude, is in 4th grade. It's the last time. I'm in the last season of doing this. And almost every single day, because there's a few days I don't take him, I'll put on this song called I'm the Man.
I'm the man. That one?
Yes. And so I put that on there, but I'm trying to tell Jude, like, Jude, you are the man. But I do it also for me. Like, man, I'm the man. I'm the man that's called to do what I'm doing right now in this season of life. And I'm the man that's called to be a great husband to Melanie. I'm the man that's called to pastor Hill City Church, that God gave me that authority. And I'm that man. Yeah. And so anywai, I just thought I would just open up with that, and you're all probably going to think I'm crazy.
Open up with that. We're closing with this.
Yeah.
So,
I meant be open with that.
Yeah.
Like, I almost didn't share that. Actually, I'm like
did.
blushing right now. So that actually was a very vulnerable thing that I just shared with you, what I do like almost every single day.
I'm just glad it wasn't 50 Cent song.
What's that 50 Cent song?
I'm the man.
Oh, no.
But he uses a lot of cuss words.
Okay.
It gets me fired up when I'm hitting the gym.
Yeah. Here's what I want to do. So here's what I talked about in that message. Again, go listen to it. But as we're closing out this series, Mindfields, what I did in the series is when I got up to actually preach and get to the message portion of it, all week long, the Spirit just kept reminding me, mind the fields, instead of just using it as a word. Mind fields as a play on word for minefields, like these explosive devices in our life to navigate them, to stay away from triggers and all this stuff. But mind the fields. And to mind something means to focus on it, to pay attention to it, to perceive it. And so I began to think and just ask the Spirit, like, what are the fields then in my life that I need to focus on and pay attention to? And in my fashion, I came up with 3 Ps, but they really were fitting for me in my life. And the first one was just the field of perseverance, like to not give up. And it's one of the part of our Bandit family code. The N in our Bandit, B-A-N-E-T, N is never give up, never quit. And I remember this message because, and I'm inspired by this message of the field of perseverance, because one of my dad's favorite stories, and again, I heard him preach many messages. I mean, I was born here, my dad a pastor. I mean, I listened to hundreds of sermons, and we had Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night.
Way too many.
I say hundreds, but thousands.
Probably thousands.
Yeah, thousands. And so he talked about one of his favorite characters in the Old Testament is this dude named Shammah. And it's only like a paragraph that's given to him in 2 Samuel chapter 23. It's one of David's mighty men. But it just talked about how Shammah went up against the Philistines and he defended his, it says, field full of lentils against the Philistines. And, and stood his ground and defeated the enemy there. And field full of lentils is a bean field.
I love
And
lentils, by the
so
way.
and so he fought over this land that would seem insignificant, but maybe
Yeah.
that was his. Maybe that was his inheritance. Maybe that was the legacy piece that his parents gave him to live there, to build there, to raise a family there. And also it was a bean field. It was beans, right? It was substance. It was provision. It was a way to be able to supply food for his friends, for himself, for his family, or whatever that case may be. And when everybody would think, oh, why are you defending? Like, you gave up your life for this bean field? And my dad would always like connect it to this place. It's why, I mean, I heard he preach it 3 or 4 times, but he connected this place, Hill City specifically, the place where this building, where the gathering of the saints happened here in Floyd Knobs, for us, it was a bean field. And God just, spoke to him to protect this place like Shema protected the bean field. And he's like, this is my field of lentils. And so I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to give up my life. I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to follow that out and really persevere to provide a place that people can connect with Jesus and really see the Father in a right way. And I'm going to fight to protect that. And I'm going to persevere so that my children and my grandkids will have a place of impact and impartation that they can receive, and really like they can receive what my dad got and the love that he found in Jesus. He wants people to find that love as well. So that was the field of perseverance. Then we talked about the field of provision, or I did, a very peculiar story in Deuteronomy chapter 24. It's like kind of like one of the laws and commands in the old covenant. And we're not in this, but it talked about how like when farmers and people are harvesting and they, I forgot some grain out there in the field, or I forgot a section, or I got a bundle of wheat out there, I need to go get it. It said, if you've left it already, don't go back. Like if you've forgotten it, leave it there to take care of the widows and the orphans and those that are poor. Now, if that was the command under the old covenant, how much more and how much greater are we under the new covenant when we're called to love as he loved us, and to give and to provide, to think about, not just it's for something forgotten, but actually think about how we're going to provide and give to those that are in need. So think about, right? Mind that field. Think about, focus on it. And then the last one was just the field of people, and the series that we're in currently, Matthew 13, in the Sandcastle Kingdoms. I actually preached this message, which kind of made us think to do the series Sandcastle Kingdoms while we were in Mindfields. Whenever I talked about Matthew 13, when I talked about the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. Mm-hmm. And so the kingdom is the treasure, and then the kingdom is where, right? Peter tells us that the kingdom of God is in you. So the field is people. And so this treasure is in people, all people. And are we diligent enough to see that treasure and to seek that treasure in people? And it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week in this greatest command, right? To love is how we see people, because we're not going to be able to love people that we see only based on their behavior, when we don't see their true authentic selves, when we don't see them, right, as the image of God at their core, in their true identity as a son or a daughter, always, permanently. Whenever we don't see them in that way, we somehow limit our love. But when we see people as righteous, when we see people as holy, people to be loved, accepted, people worthy of our effort to really uplift them and to encourage them, to see and to seek the treasure in them, to pull that out, right? To let them know, hey, this isn't something that you can become. You are already righteous because of what Jesus did. You're already whole. Like, I just think it's amazing whenever you have that mindset, right, to mind that field, the field of people. And I kind of close that sermon with this idea of field. So mind fields. The field for us as followers of Jesus is to find in everyone love and divinity. And so I think that would be just a great way to wrap up this.
For field, if you haven't been actually paying attention.
Find in everyone love and divinity. Field. Mind that field. And I think that's how we make an impact. I think that's how we make a difference. We see people as worthy to be valued and worthy of effort and sacrifice, all people, and how we're going to, again, not find ways to exclude them, but see opportunities and seek opportunities to include people.
Inclusion. It's the message of Jesus. what he was crucified for. Like
That's all I got.
what you said. Oh, you got
That's my recap.
That was a lot. I love that you said that, because when you find in everyone love and divinity, that is before they believe.
Yeah.
Before they believe, which means our job is to help awaken the people to who they have always been. They just might not have known it yet. And I love that message. It's empowering. And again, when you're loving like Jesus and you're viewing yourself as amazing the way that God views you, you're not going to walk around arrogantly putting people under your feet, because you know your position. When you know you are already a part of the royal family, you want to empower everybody and bring them up to your level, ultimately exceeding your level. And that's true kingdom mentality. So walk around finding in everyone love and divinity. And with that, just know you're loved and there's nothing you can do about it.